All right. Welcome, everyone. So nice to gather here with you live and in person. And for those of you also watching this recording, welcome. Today, we're going to dive into the very seasonally appropriate kapha melting protocols. And kapha in Ayurveda is the principle of water and earth that's in our body. I'll break all of these terms down for you if you're new to Ayurveda. And basically, in any seasonal junction that you go through throughout the year is an ideal time to cleanse things that have built up in the previous season. So in the Northern Hemisphere, at the time of this recording and the time of this live class, we are in winter transitioning. We're in late winter transitioning into spring. Of course, it all depends on the climate and the place in the world that you happen to be in terms of seasonal transition and when precisely that is. But regardless of the moment you're finding this information, it's important to learn and to gather and to plan ahead for your next cleanse when it is most appropriate. And at least we can learn how to both pacify any excesses to prevent the disease process from happening in the body, and to how to allow the body to release excess metabolic waste, undigested food, environmental toxins, anything that kind of gets lodged in our systems and creates that excess weight gain, brain fog, emotional heaviness, fatigue, lethargy, stiff joints, and things of that nature. So we want to help shed off that, melt away that excess mucus and excess stagnation, and help the body purify, feel light, clear, vibrant, energized, and be able to balance back to a healthy weight, which also helps balance the hormones and supports every other system of the body. So in today's class, we're going to lay some foundations of Ayurveda and cleansing. And really, what I want to do is give you some foundational understanding of the different types of cleanse approaches, because let's just admit there's so much out there, and there's just basically information overload and conflicting advice from every direction, right? And so if you've also been someone who's tried so many different things and maybe they work for a while but something never sticks, or you just can't get that result that you see on other people's feeds, or testimonials of certain ways, then this is really going to unlock a lot of clarity for you. Even if you have studied Ayurveda before, some of the things that I will share are coming straight from my mentor. I've been blessed to have three very wonderful, deeply profound mentors in my life. And my most recent mentor that I have been studying under for the last 6 years is very, very progressive in helping translate Ayurveda, particularly to Western bodies. And Western bodies are different than Indian bodies, where a lot of the applications of Ayurveda in the Indian country, Indian subcontinent, and to people of Indian descent, the application of cleansing protocols for that population is actually different than those of us in the US or even Europe or different countries. So it's actually really important to unlock some of these keys. And so what I'm going to be sharing today is even a little bit, I'd say, controversial in Ayurveda, because it's not what's typically interpreted through an Indian cultural lens, although it is still Ayurveda, it is still traditional, it is still looking at the beautiful web of life and the uniqueness of nature and how it's woven and interconnected both inside of you and outside of you. So I want to give you the beginnings of that lens to start to see that, oh my goodness, my body type is unique to me, and there is no one size fits all approach. And once I can start to understand my predominant constitution or the current state of health challenges that I'm experiencing, when I can cleanse appropriately for those, I no longer have to worry about sifting through the dogmas of other people's opinions and things that have worked for them. So I want to empower you with the tools in that way. And like I mentioned before I hit record to all of you who are here, there is nothing for sale at the end. This is of this class. This is a class. This is not a webinar. This is not a sales pitch. So you can relax, you can take notes and learn. And if any of you are intrigued and feel this is calling you to learn deeper, I am available for that. And my mentor is available for that. And I would be more than happy to connect you with this profound healer. In fact, him and I will be collaborating on a cleanse program that will happen at the end of March. So if you want to go deeper and just get one-on-one support within a little community, then that's available to you. But that's pretty much all I'm going to say about it. If you want more details, I'm going to ask that you reach out to me, and then I can share how you can get involved in that. And it's very easy to do so. Okay. So again, thank you for being here. And if you are just hopping in, I did put a link to make sure you can get the recording and all of my notes from today's class. I will send out via email if you are registered for the free class. So I'll put that back in once more. And if you're watching this as a recording, it'll be below the video. All right, loves. And if you have any questions as we dive into the topic, please share them in the chat, and then I'll check the chat in just a little while and make sure they get answered. All right. So let's dive into the body types first. Once you unlock some of this foundational understanding, you can start to self-identify yourself in these different types. And then I'll lay out how to balance each of those types and how that ties into I kind of use 5 categories of cleanses. So we'll look at the 5 kind of categories of cleanses and then explore which of these cleanse types are appropriate for which body type. So as we go through all of that, we'll also debunk some of the myths of like, if I cleanse, I'm going to feel, intense cravings, and how do I avoid those? Because those can really get in the way. So we'll debunk some of that, and all in all, help you make sense of all of the stuff that's out there. When you have this lens, you can look at any cookbook, any recipe blog, any fitness program, and you can start to see elements of it that would work for you and things about it that just won't work for you. And then you can just cut that out, completely. So for me, just know that this come from is not about, I'm not trying to indoctrinate you into the next best hype or thing that you should do because it worked great for me. I've been practicing Ayurveda for 12 years, one-on-one, full-time. I've seen a lot of different body types. I've taught a lot of classes, workshops, retreats, and, student bodies. And everyone has a different type and everyone has a different way. And even people with the same categorical type have uniqueness and nuance within that. And so that's very exciting to give you those keys to unlock that. And it makes everything we do in life more fulfilling and easeful. So inside the body types, there's also gut types. And we need to talk about too, gut healing methods so that the body's metabolism is working properly and that the body's not being irritated by foods. So finding the right diet for your unique gut type and your unique body type is all our aim. So without further ado, let's dive into the body types. So if you have your notes there, and like I said, I will share via email. If you're registered, I will send you via email the notes from today's class. But if you're kinesthetic and you like to write down, at the top of your paper, you're going to write 5 words from left to right across the row. And those 5 words are the essential building blocks, the foundations that exist in all of nature that also functionally come together and create our bodies. So we all have earth element. We all are made up of the water element. We all are made up of the fire element. We are all made up of wind or air, and we all are made up of space. So earth, water, fire, air, and space. Now, those are all very obvious when you think of them in terms of the external nature. How they come together in your body is they unite with one another. So your first 2 words, your kapha and your earth and water come together to make the physiological, functional humor or constitution element of kapha. Now we've used this word kapha already to describe kapha melting. So the winter is a kapha season. Kapha is cold, it's dense, right? Everything in a typical winter, as you think of it, gets frozen. So it's kind of dry, cold. Well, it's dry in the air, but really it's a condensed dry. So the mucus or the stickiness in the body becomes stiff and rigid. Kapha in our healthy amount in our body is stable. It's called sthira. It's stable. So it's our building blocks of our body. It's our joints, it's our muscles, our bones, our tissues, everything that's physical, tangible is made up of this earth aspect of kapha. And then the water aspect of kapha is the mucus. It's your saliva. It's all the reproductive fluids. It's your blood. It's the mucous membranes, the mucus that lines your stomach lining so that when you eat, food can slide through and travel through your whole GI tract. There's also mucosa lining on the inside of your lungs. And this is actually a subtle water that helps you bring air and oxygen in, and it moves it into your tissues. Your lymphatic system is made out of kapha, is made out of water. And then inside of your joints, there's lubrication of your joints that allow them to glide and move easily. So kapha is this beautiful earth grounded, stable, watery lubrication aspect. So put simply, kapha is structure and kapha is lubrication in your body. So water and earth come together. They create what Ayurveda calls kapha, and this is structure and lubrication. And the kapha psychophysiological type. So in Ayurveda, we talk about psychophysiological types, which is just a fancy word for saying mind, body, constitution, and they go together. So a kapha type person, and this is kind of, think about this in self-reflection, the kapha predominant person, because remember, we all have all elements, but we have one, sometimes two, that are more predominant than the other ones. So in a kapha predominant body type, these are the people that generally have strong builds, strong structure. They have sturdy bones, sometimes really like chiseled, jaw lines. They have they're a broader build. They are people that more easily gain weight, but also more easily gain muscle. In their character, they're very patient, stable, loving, consistent, compassionate, because they have the water element, right? So they're loving, and they're usually very sweet, and they usually also really like sweets. Now, because they're water and earth, they also can be slow to move. So if a kapha predominant body type, it takes them a while to get going, but once they're going, they're steady. They're like the tortoise, right? They will go all the way, step by step, all the way through, and see something all the way through to the end with total consistency and steadiness. So that's all the normal foundations of a psychophysiological kapha type. Now, when kapha becomes excess in the body, so when there's excess water and earth, that sometimes manifests as excessive mucus. So this body type or person may have runny nose all winter because they have so much excess kapha. They may have be more prone to that mucus coming out in the spring and have seasonal allergies. Seasonal allergies have another category as well, which I'll get into next. They often have slow digestion and sometimes sluggish. Either they have no problem with their bowel movements, or they have sluggish elimination. So things move through their system slower. They feel like they have a slower or lower metabolism even. So like they have to sometimes watch what they eat, because if they eat too many sweets or too much carbs or something, they can notice the weight gain instantly. Or sometimes they hold excess water, just water retention in their system. But their appetite also tends to be lower, meaning the kapha person doesn't really always think about food when they first wake up. They can go many hours, or they can skip breakfast altogether and just like sip on their hot drink. And they usually prefer to have their bigger meal later in the day. Or sometimes they only eat 2 meals a day. And in general, they like food, but sometimes they like food more because of that watery element, or because of a sentimental reason, because the water element, there might be like a sentimental reason, or just the enjoyment of sweets, versus the body actually being hungry for that. So it's like just an important distinction. Anything else in kapha that I jotted down? Also, when they do gain excess weight, it's usually gained pretty evenly over the whole body, and they usually find it harder to eliminate the weight because the body's already kaphic, and it already has, like with kapha, Ayurveda always says there's this beautiful plastering of soft tissue, and that's normal. So like that's actually healthy for a kapha. A kapha person should never strive to be a skinny mini teeny tiny thin person, because it's actually not healthy for their system. Unfortunately, in our modern day and age where everything is airbrushed and false, there's the media somehow celebrates very, very super skinny. And even all throughout history, that's a very modern thing. All throughout history, beauty was celebrated as voluptuousness because it's a sign of health. It's a sign of water and earth. It's a sign of stability, patience, compassion, lovingness, nurturance, motherliness. I work with a lot of women. It doesn't mean, just like nurturing care. So it's a beautiful thing. And so kapha body types just have to learn how to consistently melt away the excess, but without dipping into that, to decreasing that beautiful reserve of voluptuousness that is truly them. That is the thing that all of the other body types wish they had. They wish they had stability and consistency and patience and sweetness and effortless forgiveness and compassion. These are all characteristics of kapha. Not that they don't have it, they just wish they had more of it. That's the thing that we look up to kapha types for, the other types. So this is type number 1 of the 3. And before I get into the cleanse types, I want to share with you the 3 primary types, how they all mix together, and then how to balance each type through the different types of cleanse processes. Okay, so now we'll move on to the next body type. So the second body type, also looking along your little row of earth, water, fire, air, ether. So the next one is the fire type. This is actually physiologically in the body. Fire is obvious out there in nature, the sun, physical fire, right? Heat. But in the body, it's a liquid heat. It's a liquid fire. So water and fire come together to create pitta. And this dosha of pitta is a liquid fire. So you can think metabolic fire. You can think the digestive acids and enzymes that break down food and transform that food to derive fuel for energy, and that extract nutrients to create the building blocks of new tissues in your body. And so this is called pitta. I just need to prop this up 1 second. Okay. This is called pitta. So this fire type of constitution is hot and fiery, obviously. It also, because it's liquid, it's oily. And so I'm just giving you the base foundation, but fire is also sharp. And fire is also light. So it's light and radiant, just like fire radiates heat. So the body type of pitta predominant individuals is like a metabolic type. This type of person actually has the opposite type of metabolism than the first body type we just mentioned, than the kapha type. So in the fire type or the pitta type, there's a high metabolism. This person has a sharp digestive fire, a sharp hunger. They couldn't even think about skipping breakfast because food is so central. It's like they get hangry. They identify with the word hangry. There's like, oh no, you do not mess with me when I need to eat, right? Like this is a quintessential pitta type. And they burn through whatever fuel they put into their body, they burn through very fast. So in this type of person, sometimes they burn through it too fast even. So in your body, the psychophysiological type, pitta predominance, creates, can give you a predisposition towards hyperacidity in conditions in the gut. It can give you a predisposition towards ulcers, any type of inflammatory bowel diseases or issues. Also IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, but that can also go into vata, which is the next body type. And seasonal allergies I mentioned is the other type. So pitta, because there's a systemic inflammation in the body, the seasonal allergies come not only from excess mucus, but from irritation of those like irritants in the atmosphere, which then gets into these tiny little capillaries in the head and that heat. So, but it's a different type of response than the kapha. So then if you get a pitta kapha predominant person with seasonal allergies, it could be both. That was just a little side note to make sure I tied back to the seasonal allergies thing. But the pitta psychophysiological type also has very strong leadership qualities because their mind is very bright and luminous. We said light and radiant. They usually exude charisma. They have leadership qualities. People are drawn to them. So they can take, and they're very sharp intellectually. They're very bright and brilliant, and they can learn fast, and they're very good at directing and discerning and guiding. So that could be positions of power where they do that in their work or in their careers or in jobs that require a lot of precision and focus and that type of thing. So that's a psychophysiological perspective on who this kapha body type is. And then in excess, because pitta is fire, seasonally, we experience the most fire in our environment in the summertime. So the fall cleanses, we gear a lot more to reducing that excess inflammation that has built up over the summer season. So ideally at the junctions of spring and fall are when we are in the spring, we're usually cleansing out excess kapha and mucus and stagnation from the winter. And then in the fall time, we're cleansing out excess pitta. So pitta types definitely want to do fall cleansing. But honestly, all types need to do both because we all have vata, pitta, and kapha. We all have earth, water, fire, air, and ether in our system, and we all are an extension of nature. And therefore, we need to help the body release things that become in excess so that we don't have inflammation, stagnation, and irritation in our systems that then lead to disease and illness. So when pitta body types put on excess weight, most of the weight will first, rather than kaphas where it like plasters over the whole body, a pitta predominant person will usually gain the weight in their belly. So it creates that apple shape of weight gain. So the belly fat, the beer belly, that can also be caused by other stagnation and toxicity in the system that doesn't necessarily have to do with pitta, but pitta body types will usually, if that's the first place that fat tends to build on you when you're gaining a little bit of weight, that's usually indicative that you have some pitta predominance in your constitution. Or if you have any kind of inflammatory illness or heat disorder, as we would call it, then most likely, or if the digestive type that I mentioned with heat, acidity, inflammation, or any of those other symptoms, if that sounds like you, it's possible that pitta is a predominance in your body type. And then is in terms of the last thing that I didn't mention just about pitta in general is that of the 3 body types, is kind of the medium build, but they tend to get the most muscular out of all of the body types, or the most like chiseled looking of the body types. Not all body types are supposed to look like, chiseled athletes. So don't believe, all the fads out there that says, get your 6-pack and you should be able to do and go through this program of really extreme dieting and, exercise to try to look a certain way. Just make create a beautiful relationship with the body that you have been given in this lifetime, and allow it to become its healthiest expression of who you really are in all of your uniqueness. Okay, then the last of the 3 body types, and then we'll go into the cleansing and how to balance each one with different types of cleanses. The 3rd body type is the Vata body type, which is a combination of the last 2 elements that we haven't touched on yet, which are air and ether or space. So air and ether come together to create the physiological functional dosha called Vata. And Vata essentially means wind. It means movement. And Vata, wind in nature, is responsible for circulation. In our body, it is responsible for circulation. So when there's a healthy amount of airflow, it brings a gentle breeze. It allows some flowers and vegetables and fruits to be pollinated just through the wind. It helps the leaves fall off the trees. It helps fresh air and movement. It brings the water, the clouds from the ocean up to the mountains to drop their water. The circulation in our environment is very, very important. And then this ether or space element is very important because it's literally the spaciousness, the integrity. It creates the integrity between objects. So if there is no space between where you end and the next entity begins, everything would just be smushed together. There would be no relationship with anything in this planet, right? We have to have spaciousness. So inside your body, that spaciousness, the stomach, since we're talking about digestion, your stomach muscle, there's space inside for food to come in, and then that food can churn and get released to the next little space. But it's responsible for the integrity between objects, and it's responsible for wind or movement. So your circulation, your blood flowing, through your whole body, your breath flowing into your lungs and out, subtle energies of prana or chi moving through your body. Even the nervous system is made up of Vata primarily. So it allows us, because wind and ether are the most subtle element, it's what allows our eyes to see, along with the fire of Pitta in combination, because everything works together. It allows our ears to hear. So it allows our senses, our sense of touch, to feel. So this is all Vata. And a Vata predominant person, because Vata is light, Vata is dry, Vata is mobile, because Vata is wind, right? So Vata is animating my hands as I am talking to you with my hands. This is all Vata. Vata psychophysiological body type, you might be Vata. If you have a smaller frame, a very slight frame, if you have had a hard time putting on weight, or if you feel constantly malnourished, or if you've gone through a period of time where you're very sick or depleted. So because Vata is wind, it is reducing. So think when the winds come in the fall and it shakes all the leaves off the trees, it's a catabolic reaction, meaning it's reducing things down, it's stripping away. So in excess, that part of the body's process is to break down and extract out the things that it needs, like from food and everything. So because of that, it is kind of the opposite in size, maybe, to Kapha. So where Kapha is the broadest, strongest constitution, Pitta is the medium constitution, Vata is usually the thinnest, skinniest constitution. And usually also has like cracky, poppy joints because wind is light and dry. So the joints get very dried out. So that beautiful lubrication that Kapha has in their joints that allows them to have endurance, Vata doesn't have that sustenance because it's wind. So their joints tend to get cracky and puppy and dry. These people might have arthritis, osteoarthritis, or sooner in their life than a Kapha. Also, Vata, because it's wind, they like to move a lot. So it's very hard to keep a Vata person still. They can't sit still. They can't sit still or quiet very often. They're always chatting. They're always thinking. They're thinking rapidly. And just like clouds in the sky, lots of them, like the clouds are constantly moving, the thoughts are constantly coming in. Now we have a Vata condition in our society with social media and all of that. So all three types can be experiencing that aspect of Vata, but know that it's depleting because its nature is windy. So I got into a little bit of the excess, but let's pull back for a moment and say, okay, well, Vata is also in its healthy expression in the body, psychophysiological type. These are the creatives of life. These are Vata predominant people are creative. They're usually enthusiastic, or they have very big highs and lows, drastic changes between feeling super confident, capable, and enthusiastic and completely disoriented, confused, apathetic, even at times. So because Vata's wind, it fluctuates big time. It can fluctuate big time, but they're beautifully dreamy in their psychology. They can think really big. They can catch on to things really fast. They can learn and get something really fast, but they also can forget it just as fast. Where the Kapha type, they might be slow to start or slow to learn something or slow to grasp something, but once they grasp it, they will remember it forever. Vata, because it's wind, they hear it, I get it. But then you ask them 5 minutes later what the thing was, they already don't remember. Or the next day or something, they already don't remember. And then Pitta is like sharp and discerning. And so the Pitta person, they get something and it's right no matter what. Because they're fire. So they're like, no one's going to tell me I'm wrong. It's kind of like the Pitta mentality, because they're the leader. They're the right. They always one of my teachers, Dr. Ladd, he used to say Pittas need to have lots of yes saying friends, because Pitta is actually pacified by sweetness, and Pittas don't like to be challenged because they're dominators. So they're like, if someone says no, Pittas get angry. That's not entirely true, but it's just a cute way to remember some of the psychological differences between Kapha, Pitta, and Vata. So when it comes to lifestyle, a Vata type, so by the way, a Vata type, because it's wind, because it can be in either extreme. So typically we understand that Vatas are usually the smallest constitution. But sometimes they can have larger constitutions, especially if they're a Vata Kapha person. It's where some of the combinations can get a little tricky. But for today's training, I just really want to keep it the three categories. Okay, but just know that wind is variable. Vata is variable. Sometimes Vata people are extra, like super short. Sometimes Vata people are super tall, right? Because they're extreme. There's an extremeness. Super, super tall, lanky kind of body type is usually a Vata type, but they can also have a secondary type. When it comes to weight gain, so one thing that happens with a Vata is that when a vata gets really burnt out or is super malnourished or depleted for a very long period of time, or eating the wrong things, they can express, or you experience yourself in a kaphic way. So vatas, first of all, when vatas just put on a little bit of weight, it's usually in their thighs. So that's usually the first place fat will go for a vata. But the thing with vata is, because it's wind and it's variable, their appetite is variable, right? So a kapha has a low appetite, a pitta has a high appetite, high metabolism, sharp tikshna agni, so sharp digestion, sometimes errs to the side of hyperacidity, but they get hangry and they can't skip a meal ever. They'll eat every couple of hours because they always are voracious, right? Depending on also what they do with their body and mind during the day. Then a vata has a variable appetite. Usually we call this vishama agni. It usually varies quite a lot. So in the variable appetite means sometimes they're starving and sometimes they don't even think about food. They're hungry at different times every day, right? A pitta person is like, I need to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the same time every day. A kapha person doesn't even think about breakfast. Maybe they'll have lunch. They definitely want dinner if they have forgotten both of the other meals. Vata is like, I grab a handful of raw almonds as I run out the door to my kickboxing class, right? Like, and that's all I need. Because they're so windy and on the go and moving a lot and don't like to stay still, they basically like override their hunger cues, and they actually need the stability. So their metabolism can fluctuate quite a bit, is what I'm saying. And if they go a significant amount of time, it's like, because it's wind, if the wind blows out the fire is what happens. So the digestive fire can be very low, or the wind could stoke the fire and their digestion can be really strong. It just comes and goes and changes a lot. A vata predominant person with vishama agni type, that variable gut type, will also usually experience a lot of bloating and gas. Now, you can have bloating and gas with any of the gut types, but if there's like, basically bloating is one of the biggest things, or constipation is one of the main things that vata, like incomplete elimination. I didn't mention the elimination or that for pitta, but pittas usually can lean towards more liquid, soft movements and elimination. And sometimes there's burning sensation depending on their diet and what's going on with their gut. And it can be really uncomfortable. And then, but that's to the oily side, because pitta is a liquid fire in the body. So it tends to go to the soft elimination. And then a vata type tends to go to the dry elimination, where it's like small pieces, incomplete movements, and the body essentially gets backed up, which then contributes to more bloating. This can happen for any body type if your diet is not right for your constitution, but it's very commonly seen in vatas. So anything else on vata? The last piece I didn't speak psychologically to vata is, there's another loop that I'm going to close. So with vata, psychologically, when that wind is in excess in your system, because as I mentioned, the nervous system is very subtle, and it's a vata tissue in the body. So when vata is in excess in your system, the nervous system will be very much affected, which then affects the mind. So when someone has a vata constitution, or they simply have vata in excess, they will experience lots of anxiety. They will experience lots of busy mind. They might have insomnia. They might lose their appetite or be ravenously hungry, one or the other. And it might change every day. They will experience fear. And this is basically like, think about standing out in a windstorm, right? There's just like an inherent survival mode that kind of takes over your physiology when you're exposed to a lot of wind. So when there's a lot of physiological vata in the system, that's the emotional experience, is like survival mode, fear, anxiety. And then in that, there's like a grasping and a need to control something because I feel so out of control. So if you have those experiences, it could be that you're leaning towards a more vata constitution. So the other thing with vata and weight gain, that's the other loop I wanted to close, is that when a vata goes for a long time and kind of burns out or crashes or gets very fatigued and depleted, they can gain a lot of weight, but and a lot of things will present like a kapha. They'll feel lethargic, they'll feel heavy, fatigued, like they can't move, they'll gain a ton of weight, and they'll be like, I must be kapha, I have to do all these things, I better, follow the kapha cleanse protocol. But they're not, they're a vata underneath all of that. And the body has put on this cushion to try to protect because they have a deep feeling of unsafety inside. And those people need to have one-on-one support to cleanse because they cannot follow the kapha protocol. Because if they do, the weight won't come off and they'll get super frustrated. So basically, those people need to learn how to pacify vata in the nervous system and make the body feel safe. And they might need more rest. They might need more oil in their diet, right? And then actually the weight melts off. And this gets so confusing for people because they're like, what? I'm very overweight. I should be doing this kapha protocol. And it's like, well, at the core, it's actually vata exhaustion and depletion, and you're completely malnourished. So we actually need to nourish you and build you back up so that the weight can come off, because the weight's only there because it's protecting you. Or there's other reasons that a body feels like it needs to protect. And this could be across kapha, pitta, or vata body types, where there's childhood traumas or some kind of past painful experience that hasn't been fully digested in the system, and the body will hold on to extra weight as a protective cushion for that reason. And so then at that point, then the emotional aspect needs to be addressed in order for the feeling of safety to come back, for the nervous system to be able to be regulated, to then be able to melt off the excess weight. So there's a lot of nuance here. And I just shared with you like these three like really big categories. And these aren't the only three body types that exist, because there's combinations of each type, which make for 7 possible combinations of predominance. But I don't want you to get hung up on that right now. I just want you to see and identify aspects of you within each one. And then we can look at, well, what's the approach? What's the proper cleansing approach to each one? And I know that was a lot of information, which is why if you register for this interest group on Ayurveda cleansing and weight loss, I'll send you my notes from today's class so you can have like a clean paper that you can print out and just have like the columns of everything we talked about, and then you can go into it more deeply and have a visual. I'm a very visual person, but I also am not very much a computer person, so I don't like making slideshows. So I said, rather than do that, I'm just going to lecture and I'll send you the notes after. Plus it takes away from the personal connection. So I don't really like slideshows. I like writing on a whiteboard. If we were here together in person, I would write on the whiteboard and show you that. Okay. So if there's any questions on any of that stuff, make sure you're typing them in the chat and we'll circle back to it. And I want to make sure I give you a really an important way to look at approaching the cleanses. All right. So we're getting to the top of the hour now. We'll at least go 15 minutes over. If that's okay with you, you can always get the recording after and hop out as needed. I didn't promise a certain length of time, but I, in my mind, tried to keep it to an hour, but I know how much I talk when I teach. All right. It's just so exciting. It's so beautiful. We get to hang out with in this beautiful, beautiful science that's thousands of years old, and it's so wise and it's so empowering. It's beautiful. So now in your notes, you're going to take 2 columns. So draw a little line down the middle. And this is the lens that you're going to approach all body types with, and how to effectively rebalance them so that the excess weight can melt off, the brain fog, all that good stuff, extra mucus, whatever the body needs to release out of kapha season, or just whatever's going on in your body, regardless if it fits into those categories at all. So the nuanced thing, in addition to the 3 body types and then the 7 combinations of those, each dosha has like about 7 attributes. These are called gunas. They are qualities or attributes that are nuanced within each. So each of you, even if you have a dominance, even if you have a secondary predominance, you have attributes, nuanced, specific attributes of each of these doshas that are more present in your system than others. Those little attributes I won't go through today because that is more advanced, details, and I don't want us to get lost in the details. But it is something just to know that that exists. And this is why, again, there's no one size fits all approach that works for everyone. This is why my mentor and I are going to just team up and be like, let's just have one-on-ones with everyone so they know exactly what cleanse protocol to do. And then we can all do it together and go through it together. It'll be great. So just know, whether or not you feel like doing a cleanse program, just know you can reach out to me and drop in on a session and cut through the static or confusion for yourself at any time. Just reach out. And I'd be happy to help you figure out exactly what to do. I don't believe in all the runaround. Okay, so you have the line down the middle, and on your right column, draw a little picture of a sun. And on your left column, draw a little picture of the moon. On the right column, this is what we call in Ayurveda. The sun is called Lungana. Lungana. But you can write solar, Lungana, lightening, cleansing. Solar, Lungana, lightning, cleansing. On the left is this word called Brumhana. You can just write Brumhana, like the brim of a hat. Brumhana. Brumhana means building, lunar, growing. So the lunar side of this map is the yin side. So this is very similar to yin and yang in Chinese medicine. The lunar side is the yin side. The solar side is the yang side. We have yin and yang with every breath. We have yin and yang with day and night. Daytime is yang, nighttime is yin. Yin simply means energy goes in, internal. I go to sleep, I restore, I rejuvenate, I rebuild, right? This is all synonymous. And then Langana, or lightning or solar, now my energy is going out. The sun rises, I'm doing, I'm giving, I'm executing, energy is going out. The qualities of solar are hot, dry, light. The qualities of lunar are cool, moist, and heavy. So make sure you write those ones down. Cool, moist, and heavy. The effect that, now since we're looking through a dietary, nutrition, and digestion lens, the effect that the yang side has on your body is purification or purifying, cleansing. The effect of the lunar side is grounding and nourishing. Grounding and nourishing. So we have purifying and cleansing, grounding and nourishing. So based on the body types, now these two columns that you just wrote out, this is the foundation of all wisdom traditions and all Ayurvedic therapies. It gets more and more nuanced, and there's many, many beautiful layers and specific things that we can apply this to. But at their base levels of simplicity, I want to provide you with this one lens and this key. If you look at, you approach these two opposing forces that are part of nature, you're either building and growing or depleting and reducing. Look at the 3 body types I just gave you. You can also label them. I'll make this super simple. Kapha. The action of kapha in the body is anabolic, increasing. It is building. The action of vata in the body is catabolic. It's decreasing, reducing, depleting. The action of pitta in the body is metabolic. It's digesting, creating energy, breaking, transforming. It's transforming. So if we look at the 3 body types, for kapha, which type of therapy, from looking at the therapeutic opposites, which type of therapy seems most appropriate for kapha? I know we don't have all our microphones on, but I'm going to pause for just a moment. Say it out loud wherever you are. So, right. If kapha is building, then we want to use the therapeutic opposites of lightness: hot, dry, light, purifying, decreasing, lightening. And then it's easy. We look at vata. Vata is already catabolic. It's already light, dry, and rough. So what's its therapeutic opposite that you would imagine to be most effective? The yin side. So that's where we're talking. Even with Vatic weight gain, we still want to nourish, but we can nourish and cleanse simultaneously. That's the real juicy wisdom of Ayurveda. And then with Pitta, which one? So with Pitta, it's going to end up being a little bit of both. It's going to be a little bit of both. So because Pitta is hot already, we want to help cool down the inflammation. So there's going to be a grounding element, and there's certain cleanses that aren't appropriate for Pitta because it will increase the inflammation. And if pittas have really strong digestion. So even when they're cleansing and giving the gut a break, there are certain things that we just take out of the diet for a certain amount of time, but we also can do certain cleanse protocols with a pitta that they still have, say, for example, like protein. If they're doing a liquid cleanse, they can still have protein powders or something like that, and it'll help balance them. And then there's aspects of the yin and the yang side that apply to pitta. Then we just have to get more refined around, well, what is your unique health challenge? So you have your basic body type, cleanse type. Then we have some understanding of a therapeutic opposite. And then we say, well, what are your unique health conditions and health challenges and situations? And that's what we go into and assess next. So any questions on the pairs of the therapeutic opposites? And I know this is a brief overview, and this is just a quick application of them to looking at the body types. But then we take it a level deeper and say, okay, what's the person's health challenge? What are their inclinations? What's the current dietary status? So I'm a big believer in setting someone up for success. So I'm not a huge believer in that you need to change everything all at once and go on a diet. Because if you go on a diet, psychologically, it's on and off. It's a pair of duality. It's a pair of opposites. It's a duality. I go on a diet, I come off a diet. I try something because then I can back out. Rather, there's like a spectrum. So what I like to do is assess, where someone is starting and help them make one step towards a lifestyle change that's in alignment with their higher goals in life and in alignment with their unique identity of who they are in the world and what they're here to do, who they're here, what is really important to them. And then you tie those higher goals into the food goals. Otherwise, it's just an arbitrary dietary thing that I'm trying to do, right? So, where is someone on the spectrum? Is someone eating like standard American diet, totally conventional foods, meat and potatoes and cheese, and a glass of milk with every meal? And if that's the case, then how can we start making some shifts to just like a more natural and organic diet that's still omnivore, totally mixed? Wheat and all of that, right? And then like if someone's wants to transition from even just a more refined than their organic natural foods to more vegetarian foods, for example, or a gluten-free and vegetarian or pescatarian or eggs only. It's all dependent on your beliefs and your desires and what's right for you. And then if someone wants to transition more to say veganism from there, or they want to refine veganism to raw veganism, or from raw veganism to fruitarianism, there's like this whole spectrum of purification, of pure and simpler and simpler. And it all really depends, like any of those dietary choices on that big spectrum, it depends on what your higher goals in life are. If you have spiritual goals, meditation goals, yoga goals, fitness goals, business goals, who are you here to be in the world? Family goals. There is no one size fits all approach. It's all about discovering what is the best one for you, while simultaneously recognizing what are the foods within each of those categories that actually bog down the digestive system and can actually be broken down all the way or not. Because if something's not broken down all the way, then it turns into what we call ama. Ama in the body is a metabolic waste product. It is the byproduct of undigested food in the system that needs to find somewhere to go. So if your food, no matter how pure, organic, perfect the meal is, or the foods are that you generally consume, if it's not broken down all the way by the digestive fire, it will become stagnated and built up somewhere in the system, whether that becomes excess weight gain, or it can create excess in the joints and create stiff joints, and create excess in the lungs. It can create excess in the mind. It can create all kinds of other health issues in any of the 7 dhatus, any of the 7 tissues or organ systems in the body can get clogged with this excess. And so excess kapha and ama presents a certain way. Sometimes that presents as cysts and tumors and excessive growths, nodules, all kinds of disorders of that. It can be cancers and heart diseases and things that have build up in plaque. So that's kapha with ama. Pitta with ama combined can be autoimmune illnesses of all kinds, rheumatism, fibromyalgia, any kind of disorder that has an inflammatory component. And then or an acidic component. It can also be especially psoriasis, eczema, all of these things. Those are pitta and ama. Also disorders of the myelin sheath, Parkinson's and MS and things like that are pitta with ama. So when the food goes undigested and it builds up, it doesn't always mean weight gain. It can mean that the excess gets built up into one of these body systems and tissues. And then vata with ama, I'm sorry, I said Parkinson's with pitta. Parkinson's would actually fall under the vata category. So where that depletion and that dryness of vata enters the nervous system and then also breaks down the myelin sheath, but it's not from a heat perspective, burning it off. It's from a drying perspective and it breaking down. Also osteoarthritis, and Alzheimer's, dementia, and all causes of every type of chronic pain complex for vatas, and degenerative illnesses and diseases all are vata and can be vata with ama as well. So these seasonal cleanse protocols are just vital for optimizing the digestive system. And when we do a cleanse protocol, it might be different than the dietary choice that we make across that spectrum, right? So when it comes to, there's a baseline of a lifestyle change, that's something that you really want to consistently stick with for a long period of time. So that's the foundation. That's the spectrum I was just referencing. Whether or not you choose to have meat or wheat or dairy in your diet, right? Like we all know that more plants, more fresh fruits, organic fresh fruits, veggies, nuts, seeds, grains, and legumes, depending on your digestion, these are things that are very, very clean. Juices, fresh juices, and all of that. We know that these are the easiest to digest and very clean, depending on your gut and all of that. But wherever you choose to have your day-to-day life involved with your family and everything, this foundation is up to you. We just want to make one change in the right direction based on your uniqueness. And then when you do the cleanse, there is a time of restriction, but there's a time of doing that without dogma, without feeling deprived, doing it for a certain length of time that supports the doshas well. And so I'll give you these categories briefly and approaches, and then We'll go just a few more minutes, and then I will continue to send notes and recordings. And honestly, just even getting your questions will help me create shorter content and continue the conversation, because this does not end here. We're going to continue the conversation, and I want to keep refining the learning for you while also providing like a foundation of understanding. So when it comes to cleanses, here's my approach with Ayurveda. We can go all the way to the side of a liquid cleanse. So basically this is called a limeade fast. So number one in the list of 5 cleanses that I'm going to give you today is a limeade fast. Yes, it sounds like lemonade, but it's with limes, because that's good for pitta, because limes are cooling and lemons are heating. But actually limeade this is the most probably controversial fast in Ayurveda from traditional Indian standpoint, because they don't usually give this, but it works phenomenally, especially for kaphic body types who have a lot of excess overweight and they want to rapidly come back into balance and then return to their chosen diet foundation feeling amazing. So the limeade fast is essentially a water fast, but it's not plain water. You're getting all of the blood sugar regulation and minerals that you need from one simple drink. So the limeade fast is purified water, lime, mineral salt, and maple syrup. And it's in the ratios that most appeal to you. And it tastes great. And you can drink as much of it as you want all day long for as many days as it takes to shed off the excess kapha. And again, this is a tricky one because it definitely isn't appropriate for everyone. It can be very depleting for pitta types and for vata types. But if there's someone that has true kapha type with a true kapha imbalance, like several clients, like one's coming to mind from last year, he did this for almost 30 days. And he had, I was blown away because it was the longest I tracked someone do it. But he was just like, every single day he had total permission to eat again. Like he had total permission. And I told him how to go into it properly, how to come out of it properly without imbalancing yourself, but he shed all the weight. He had like an extra, probably he said 25 pounds that he just needed to melt off. So he did the limeade fast. He lived on it for like a month. He had all the energy he needed for work. He had all the energy he needed. And his digestion got a full reset. His metabolism got a full reset. And it's not for everyone. And it's the most extreme of them all. And I never thought I would talk about it publicly because it's not for everyone. And I don't want people to listen to this and be like, I'm just going to drink only that. And then they get super depleted, especially if they're a vata type. Vatas, don't do it. Pittas, please don't do it. No one will want to be around you. You'll be so angry. But kaphas, it's the best medicine. It's amazing. So again, this is why my mentor taught me this one. And I, as an Ayurvedic practitioner who has like been trained in Ayurveda, I was just like, I can't believe you're giving that to people. And I've watched it just work wonders. So it's great. That's great. And then the second one, which is a lot easier than the first one, and is appropriate definitely for kaphas too. The second one is juice. So it is a juice fast or juice cleanse. Now this is wonderful especially for kaphas, but actually certain types of pittas and vatas can do it as well if they have enough ama that has gotten really lodged into one of their dhatus. So I'm a vata pitta, pretty equal constitution, pitta vata. And I had I had ama in my joints, actually, and in my musculoskeletal system. And I did 40 days of a juice cleanse. I drank about a gallon of juice every day for 40 days. There are other cleanse protocols that I did alongside of that were part of it that I won't get into right now, to properly respect, the details of those that are more personalized per person. But there were some other aspects, other things that I did. And at some point about halfway through, I had to have steamed broccoli with no oil or anything, like every night, once a night. So it wasn't only liquid juice for 40 days, because I'm way too Tikshna Agni, too pitta for that. I needed a little fiber in my system, but it was greens, so it was good. And the juice, like, just everything came out of my joints that I needed to come out. And so that has brought my body back in alignment, because I had a lot of stagnation in those joints, and it was very painful. So juice, when done appropriately, so the juice, the second category, can be applied to a kapha, pitta, or vata body type, but there are probably some extra things that a pitta and a vata would need to make it more wholesome or easier for them. But it provides so much energy, vitamins, minerals, and nutrients. So for me, it wasn't only about getting the stuff out of my joints, but it was also about basically delivering deep nutrition to the cells that had been missing nutrition for a long time. And the gut got a break from digesting heavy stuff and fibrous stuff and all of that. You still get fiber in the juice a little bit, which just helps carry excess waste out, but it brings the nutrients into the cells very, very easily. And some pittas and vatas can also do well with adding some protein powder to their juice. And it gives you muscle while cleansing everything out. And it helps to not be so imbalanced. The most important thing is not having any fat in the diet during that time. But again, there's appropriate ways to personalize this for anybody. And for most people, they don't need 40 days. But under an Ayurvedic physician's supervision, which is why I always recommend one-on-one support, you can get the protocol for the amount of time that's needed, for your specific condition. And the first time I did a juice cleanse was years ago, and I just did 3 days. And it was the first boost of energy that I ever felt, like, because my gut needed a break from digesting physical, like, density. And 3 days of a juice cleanse, going into it properly and coming out of it properly, are very, very important pieces. But doing that was just so invigorating. And so a lot of people, I would more so recommend the juice for, geared towards the proper body type in the right way for a shorter period of time. It can still be really, really effective. I'm just a crazy Ayurvedic yogi person who, my Vaidya knew that I was in a period of life where I could just do this really intense thing, test it out so that I could help people better with it. Anyway, okay. So I only gave you 2 so far. I got 3 more, and then we'll wrap up for today. So the third one is smoothies. So we're still kind of in the liquid realm, but now we have, some more fiber, some more sustenance. My Vaidya mentor, he lived on smoothies for an entire year. But so that, if that's one account, but we use smoothies a lot with cleansing, but it's not really the smoothies that you see out there on the internet that are just like 50,000 things thrown into the blender and they're super cold and hard to digest. So when I say smoothies, I'm talking about, you can do smoothies like a mono meal, and it creates it more stability. You can do smoothies like very, very simple for your digestion. Like we're talking 2 ingredients, 3 ingredients, maybe some hot water in the mix, maybe a warm smoothie, maybe some fat, maybe some protein, depending if you're kapha, pitta, or vata, depending on how much cleansing you want. You can make smoothies for a kapha that are super cleansing and that will pull everything through, and they can drink those all day long and be great. You can make them for a pitta or a vata that will slow down the cleansing effect by putting more fat and more protein so that they feel the effects a little bit less and they feel grounded still while they go through it. Right? So when I say smoothies, it's not like 50 million superfoods and lots of different raw vegetables. It's usually some fruit, a simple fruit. There's fruits and vegetables that don't combine well in your gut. So it's doing the right combinations of a fruit and a vegetable, and then some warm water or some hot tea, some type of fat, even like an avocado or another healthy fat. So there's lots of ways to make them very simple, and you can do it mono diet or you can do it. And then there's combinations, of course. So smoothie is number 3. And again, smoothie per body type. And then the 4th one is essentially raw vegan, but I'm going to get more specific than raw vegan. And I'm going to say raw fruits, veggies, nuts, and seeds. FVNS. Raw fruits, veggies, nuts, and seeds. So basically, this is a diet this is not a diet. This is a cleanse protocol, although you can live on this for a long time too. But this is a cleanse protocol that you just eat fruit, veggies, nuts, and seeds in lots of different combinations. Some of it might be smoothie. Some of it might be, a massaged salad. But it's just whole fruits, whole vegetables, nuts, and seeds. So your fats and your proteins are coming from nuts and seeds. You can also have juices and smoothies and limeade with this, but if you like something to chew, then you would do great with this. And there can be a combination of all these things. The limeade, you can start drinking that right now, no matter where you are, whoever you are, as your hydration tonic. That doesn't mean you're going to start cleansing just because you're drinking that. You can start adding a juice to your diet every single morning. You can add a smoothie to your diet every single morning and then eat how you're normally eating later. It's just all of it is going to just help bring nutrients in. But if you want to approach as a cleanse protocol, which will, would be good to cut out a period of time that you're eating only this, but you're going into it properly and you're leaving it properly back to your stable lifestyle. But you do it, and there's, the raw fruits, veggies, nuts, and seeds can be made as a bowl, can be made as a meal, can be made as a smoothie. There's lots of different ways to make it. And if you're more of like a savory person, like you don't like the sweet flavors as much, most smoothies are sweet. So if you need to have a little bit more of a savory flavor and something to chew on, pitta people will do better with that combination typically, right? Unless they really need, or they can do a couple of days of a couple of days of juice only, and then they can switch right to the raw fruits, veggies, nuts, and seeds for a few days. And then they can go back to their diet of choice, their foundational diet of choice. Okay. Number 5, last one. This is cooked vegan, but there's a caveat. We're still using fruits, veggies, nuts, and seeds, but now we're doing a cooked version. So this is most appropriate for like vatas or for pittas who just really need something warm if they're a pitta vata type, and also for kaphas who are just straight up know themselves and know if they go to too much of an extreme, it's going to be too much for them. And they don't want to feel that light and depleted right off the bat. So if going from what they're eating to like a limeade, probably better for them to just do a khichdi mono diet or a cooked veggie mono diet. So a kapha or any of the body types, when I say cooked mono diet, I'm saying cooked fruits, veggies, nuts, and seeds, still using those four, where all your proteins and fats will come from the whole food and the fruits, whole fruits and vegetables, except you're going to cook them. So say, for example, you cook stewed apples or stewed pears or soaked raisins with your stewed apples, and that's a warm meal by itself with chia seeds, and then you have a big bowl of steamed broccoli with a sunflower seed or hemp dressing and hemp seeds sprinkled on it with nutritional yeast, and it tastes cheesy and satisfying. But kaphas who really want to cleanse but who really want to eat can completely consume as much cooked vegetables as they want, especially the green ones, because the green vegetables are more cleansing than like the colored vegetables like carrots and beets. Those are better for vatas, and because they're sweet, and pittas because they're more building. So any of the green vegetables, Brussels sprouts, zucchini, broccoli, green beans, sugar snap peas, collard greens, leafy vegetables, like all of the yummy things. You can make them in so many different ways to be satisfying, and they can just be cooked. Now, all of the things I've mentioned so far, so there's your 5, and with some applications to the body types, but all the things I mentioned so far can also be a little bit time consuming. Juice is very time consuming. Limeade and smoothies, they're very quick and easy. But the raw fruits, veggies, nuts, and seeds, that's time consuming. The even, the cooked fruits, veggies, nuts, and seeds is not as time consuming. But the easiest of them all, which is the typical one you hear about in Ayurveda, is a cooked vegan or almost vegan. I call it geegan because ghee Kimberly, because ghee is still, no matter, honey, raw honey and ghee are still like medicine in Ayurveda. There's no shadow of a doubt there that yes, fruit, veggies, nuts, and seeds, and then legumes and grains. So a human can absolutely subsist off of all those things and forever. But ghee and honey are, I'm not talking dogma here. I'm just saying, like, it's been shown that cultures of people can subsist off of those things, that they don't have to have, there's a lot of things we're taught about protein and meat and dairy that are all funded by the industries that create those. And and they're just not true, and as well as wheat and how it's been adulterated and how it creates inflammation in the system. There's a lot we can say about all of these things. And so I'm not commenting on the standard diets that we're talking about. Like, everyone gets to choose their own standard diet. But when we're talking about the cleanse protocol and the things that are most supportive for the body types, that's why I'm presenting, that as that. So generally legumes and grains, they're actually lunar. So they're actually brunghana. They're actually building an anabolic. Okay, so this is why I've seen too many people that learn about the khichdi mono diet from the Indian lens of Ayurveda, and they eat mung dal, which is a lentil soup, and they'll eat that every day, and they will cleanse from it, especially if they're a conventional eater, standard American diet, or even an omnivore, and then they go and eat mung soup every day. They will lose weight. That will work, and you might hit a threshold or a glass ceiling at some point. But for digestions that are very weak, and for Vata constitutions who need more building, so they need grounding and nourishing and purification while also needing rejuvenation and rebuilding, then adding, khichdi, which is a 1-pot meal of rice and lentils together with vegetables and healthy oils. You could eat that every day, and that would be perfect for your cleanse. And it's still fine for a kapha to eat that. Again, it depends on where they're starting in their foundational diet. I keep referring to these diagrams that actually don't exist, but that in my mind, they're existing here. Forgive me, I'm talking a lot. So you'll see it in your notes. So does this make sense? Yeah, I hope. So any combination of these 5 categories that I gave you today. So just to review: limeade, juice, smoothie, raw fruits, veggies, nuts, and seeds, or cooked in general. And then we can have cooked khichdi, cooked grains, legumes, like basically cooked vegan, or cooked fruits, veggies, nuts, and seeds. It all depends on the body type, the current health challenge, and what the unique needs are of a person. But you can combine these as well, the 5 categories. So say, for example, if you wanted to do a 5-day cleanse, you could have a juice first thing every morning. When that fully digests and goes all the way through, you could have a smoothie. When that fully digests and goes through, like a fruit smoothie, then you can hydrate with a limeade. And then you can have a khichdi mono meal at the end of the, we should try not to eat after sunset in general, because our digestive enzymes are most active during the daylight hours. But those could be your meals. Or you could do the juice, you could do a smoothie, and you can do a big bowl of steamed broccoli with that sauce that I was saying, and be totally satisfied. Then you can have like a hot tea. So I also like to do the different types of teas that are best for each body type too. So you could do a tea in the evening, and a piece of fruit, so there are so many ways to do it. And it also depends on your life and how busy you are and how much time you want to spend in the kitchen. It's all personalizable and it's all doable. So I'm going to check the questions now, and then I want to wrap up. And I'm sorry I went so far over today, but I didn't tell you when our stopping time was, but I do have to wrap up for time's sake. And as long as you are registered, as I will put in the chat once more, it's below this video as a recording, you're watching it online, that if you register for our ongoing workshops, I will also email you the notes from today. So alicialyndiaz.com/Ayurveda-cleanse. Just put in your email there. No spam, none of that nonsense. If you want to learn more about the 15-day cleanse program that my Vaidya mentor, Ayurvedic physician mentor, and I will be creating together, I can share you information on that. You can always email me, hello@alicialyndiaz.com. You can book on my calendar, which I'll also link if you just want to talk to me one-on-one right away. And we can get you going on personalizing anything that we talked about today, whether the program is right for you or not. Like I said, nothing, no pushy sales, anything. This is really just to power in and give you an opportunity to go deeper if you need support. So I'll send more information via email if you're on that list. And Kimberly, thank you for the sweet words. You're too sweet. She said that was the single best explanation I've ever heard of the doshas. I really don't believe that, but thank you for your encouragement, because it inspires me to keep teaching you all. And I love you all, and I thank you all for being here. You're so sweet. Oh yeah, let me give you this link too. If anyone wants to just book on my calendar, and you can see how to do that, donation based. The link is there. And then if you want to come to the program, we can talk about that too. And I hope you for the 15-day. That will be really fun. We'll go all into this. I'll give you all the recipes and how to do it. And basically the most fun part is that my Vaidya mentor and I will both get the opportunity to meet with you one-on-one. You can talk to me or him or both of us as part of the program. You'll talk to us. You can order some herbs if you want to use, herbal supports. And then we'll tell you, this is the cleanse that works for you, or we will discover that with you together based on your life and your needs. And then we can all go through this group together. So you also have that community support. So it'll be fun. Okay. Thank you all for being here live. For those of you, I couldn't see your faces, but I see your names, and I'm sending you all my love and prayers and well wishes. Carolina, nice to see you. Nilima, thank you. Amy, sweet to see you. Lots of love to you all, and thanks again. I'll just sing one closing prayer. May our conversation today benefit all beings in all places, on all levels. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Om Tan Tan Bantare Namaha. Thank you, loves. See you soon. Email me. I miss you already. hello@AliciaLynnDiaz.com. Okay, see you soon. Bye.